Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning for me. May not be for you whenever you guys are watching this, but it is 9:15 on a beautiful morning, Friday. It is currently, let's see, what is the temp? 42 degrees. Not cold, could be colder, right? I mean, it's January 2nd. Normally around this time of year, it's pretty damn cold, but I'll take this today. I mean, we're actually supposed to get up in the 50s, so. Anyways, we're on the last boat wrap of this season. I'm gonna take you guys along with me. I'm heading out to Lowe's right now to pick up a couple of items that we need for the job and other jobs. And then we're gonna shoot out that way. So hopefully somebody likes them. It feels weird to even ask you to like, comment, and subscribe, but here I am. Content creator was on my bingo card for 2026. Go figure. All right, boys. Bags and damper it. Time to hit the road again. So as we're making our, just over an hour drive here, I was kind of thinking it, it occurred to me that I haven't really talked to you guys about what my business does, how I got here. Figured I'd kind of share that story while we're heading to our destination here. Let's see, I guess mid 2022, right? I was just chilling one day and on YouTube, working my day job like normal. I came across this YouTube video, and I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He's Mike Rowe with Dirty Jobs, right? He's an idol of mine. I've always liked the guy. I like the way he talks about the trades and, working with your hands and how important it is, and, how all of the systems that we rely on every day relies on these dirty jobs, right? Anyways, he was with some guys that were shrink wrapping some big boats up in like Lake Michigan, somewhere up north, right? I thought that it was really satisfying. I was like, wow, this is oddly satisfying, and I've never seen it in this area. I grew up on Table Rock Lake. I had never seen shrink wrap boats. The light bulb goes off. Like, oh, maybe this is a cool little business venture I could look into, So that's kind of how it started, right? I started doing market research. I reached out to some shrink wrap installers that work up north. I got a couple of them to actually take the time and talk to me about pricing and, what to look out for, what's the best material to use, yada, yada. I owe a lot to those guys. They're very, very kind to me. They actually took the time, like I said, to talk on the phone, to FaceTime, to discuss what kind of tools I need to get, etc., and all that fun stuff. So I got a leg up there, and I decided to take the plunge, right? I went ahead and got the LLC, started looking for insurance, got my CRM all put together, all that stuff. I wanted to do it completely legit. I didn't want to go sole proprietor. I wanted to have an LLC with a good insurance policy so I'd be able to work with higher end clients. So it initially started with, just targeting boats, right? Since that's what I knew, I still have a lot of friends in the marine industry, and I thought, it'd be a pretty good jumping point there. So I ended up getting everything together and all ready right at the beginning of winterization season in 2022. October of 2022. I made the announcement. I had, that's the other part of this too. It took me a little bit to get up and running because I wanted to have like a really successful launch. Like I wanted everything to be pristine and good to go. So I spent a lot of time, making my logos, my color schemes. I spent a lot of time making my website from scratch. I bought the 417 shrink wrap domain, I had all of this stuff that I was loading into the pipe before October 2022, whenever I actually made the announcement that that I'm launching this company. I wanted everything to be good to go so I could jump off from a good foot, you know? I think that's really important. I wanted to look professional at the end of the day. So that's what I did. I announced it early October, right at the beginning of winterization season in this area, and absolutely crushed it. I did a bunch of advertisements on Facebook. That seems to be where my target demographic is, you know, middle-aged to retirement-aged males and females around the lake area. I pushed advertisements pretty good through Facebook, so that was another cost that I had to kind of figure in, but I started getting clients pretty quick. And like I said, you know, I had a day job, so I wasn't able to make myself fully available as much as I would have liked to. There was times that I actually had to kind of turn people down, or timing wouldn't work for them, unfortunately. But you know, that first year, I ended up making right around $10,000, and I was, you know, I was pretty happy about that, right? I mean, that's a pretty good first launch year, and starting pretty late in the game on winterization. I mean, if I would have started a little bit sooner and advertised a little bit sooner, you know, who knows? But that gave me enough fire in the pit, if you will, to push it. So again, it started as just boats, right? Boats, they're pretty seasonal. Now, here and there, I'll do a transportation type situation where I'll work with or I'll be contacted by a private client or one of the boat dealerships that I work with for a transport job. So a lot of boat sales happen in this area here in Southwest Missouri. People will buy boats, you know, that live in, I don't know, Arizona, you know, live in Florida, live in California, the coastal places, because the boats are so much more affordable here than those areas. And they'll have them transported to their home. You know, I'll do a few of those transport jobs a year. It's been slowly going up. I think I've done about 6 to maybe 8 this year, 6 to 7. So, you know, there's that aspect of it, but it's still fairly seasonal, right? I mean, a few boats here and there for transport during the year wouldn't really be enough to keep this going. So I was like, man, there's gotta be other industries that I can break into. And of course there are. So the area that I live in is notorious for stainless steel fabrication. Something that I honestly, dead serious, didn't really take into account whenever I started the business. I wasn't really counting on that. But I ended up catching the attention of a company that does stainless steel tank fabrication. I'm talking big, huge tanks for breweries. I mean, all kinds of different big high-end clients need these fluid storage stainless steel tanks for various reasons. It's a booming industry. So I got in with them, I did a few jobs for them, and you know, that just kind of kept continuing, right? I mean, nobody in those shops likes to do shrink wrapping. If you're a welder or a fabricator, you don't want to be taking 4 to 8 hours or a couple days even in some cases to shrink wrap a tank. It's not what you were hired on to do. It's not what you enjoy. And ultimately at the end of that, the shrink wrap's not even going to be that great. From that, I kind of started to gather a value proposition for these shops, right? I was like, oh, I kind of see the angle that I could take. And that is basically getting your skilled labor back to doing what you hired them for, right? Instead of shrink wrapping and spending all this time shrink wrapping and you're not ultimately not having a great product, you know, let's get those skilled labor individuals off and back into their operations, their normal day-to-day stuff. I have the materials. You don't have to worry about any of the materials. I bring all that with me. I knock it out, and you know, that's kind of the value proposition that I've been running with. So I've approached a couple other companies, and I've had a few others approach me. Once you get that name out there and they see what kind of work you're able to do and you can free up their people, then it's kind of gone and grown from there. And that's kind of where the primary growth of the business has come from. In fact, I still work for my day job that I was talking about when I started this conversation. However, that is only for like a few more weeks. I've actually gotten to the point where it's costing me money to work at my day job. I need to be more available for my business. You know, that wasn't a decision that I and my family, I do have a family, took very lightly. You know, we had to really look at some things as far as private insurance, health insurance, all that stuff. So this has been a couple of months in the making, but I've gotten some bigger contracts and I've got really good business partners, and there's a niche that needs to be filled in this area. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about that and let you know, where I came from, how the idea started. I thought it was kind of a neat backstory. Maybe it'll inspire somebody to start their own business. That's where I'm at right now. And part of my New Year's resolution is to create some content for the business. So that's why I'm recording myself shrink wrapping. This might not be the most the most exciting content. I realize that. I'm not an idiot. But I do know that people love to watch others work. But I feel like I can make it marginally interesting, maybe. I don't know. I do want to open it up to you guys and kind of see what you want to be a part of. Are there, questions you have about the business? Is there content you like to see me shrink wrap? I don't know. Right now we're at the tail end of the boat season. Again, I think I mentioned it earlier, but this should be my last winterization boat of the year. We're in January 2nd of 2026 now. And so the boat side is wrapping up, but the industrial side is it's ramping up, guys. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this content. If it sucks, cool, let me know. I mean, if there's something I'm doing that sucks, please say it. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. At the end of the day, I really, I'm just here to put out some decent content and take you guys along for my journey of becoming a full-time business owner and operator. Anyways, I'll quit gabbing. We'll keep crushing some miles here. We got about 46 minutes left until we're down to the boat that we're going to be shrink wrapping. And I'll see you guys down there. We'll start unloading. Peace. All right, fellas, here we are. Nice little airport down here in this area of Table Rock Lake. Coming down to our destination. Pretty cool setup. They got a little tarmac runway here. It's a cool spot. I gotta remember where this is. I believe it's down around the airport here. Beautiful spot. I don't think it's that dock, although I wish it was. If I remember right, I gotta walk pretty far with all of my stuff down a little trail that's like meant for a golf cart, right? Can't really bring my truck down there, so we're gonna be hucking it pretty far. Yeah, and I think it's this over here, if I remember right. Yep. All right, let's run these down. Foist. It's quite the hike, boys. And this ain't no joke. Yaw. I don't think this is locked. Here she is. All right. Beautiful cobalt. Let's go get our other stuff. Only like 4 more trips to go. There we go. thing I always like to do. Fresh carbides. Pardon, I think I'm just kind of getting over a cold, so if I'm like sniffly and coughing, you know, sorry for headphone users or whatever. All right. Set that up in a little bit. Let's get the prep in the inside, make the internal structure. Client wants me to deflate this guy. Air tube deflated. All right, guys. Now that we've made 4 trips up and down, deflated the air tube, time to build the internal structure. All right. Dump rid. I like to put that by the driver's seat. We'll go from up there. Yeah. Ooh. First rule of shrink wrapping, always forget something that you need after you get in the boat. That's rule number 1. I am gonna also take out my wallet and my truck key, because if I go swimming, I hate to try to find those. Phone, it'll be all right. All right, now let's hope I have enough strap. I made a strap order, or a materials order. I got some straps, but with the New Year's holiday, that of course put everything behind, so I just decided to take the risk. I think I got enough. But it's pretty quiet down here. I think the sun should start peeking through before we know it. Wouldn't that be just lovely? All right, so I gotta get creative here. All right, taking off shoes. Let's see if we can get up here with this. Excuse me, sir. I would like to loop you. Gonna be a little bit more conservative with strap today than I normally am. Just because, again, I think I have enough, but also not enough to just be completely careless. All right, we're gonna take our buckle out of our big pocket, loop that thing. Buckle up through. Simple square knots. And tape. I always like to leave my customers some koozies, so I'm gonna leave them 4 of them. Because I bought way too many of them. One of the things I've done in the past is I've gone to boat shows. So I'll have a booth at a boat show. One of the things that I bought for the boat show Actually, here, put a picture on the screen of the boat show. That's me in my booth, my 417 shrink wrap booth. That actually, that boat show, well, those boat shows that I went to, got me in with multiple dealerships around the area, boat dealerships around the area. Because, you know, you take that time to kind of schmooze. You know, walk around, talk to other people that have booths there, tell them a little bit about what you do, and you know, exchange information. So you kind of have that relationship building, and that has been overall a good thing. I think I mentioned it earlier, but part of the business is doing transport boats. So boats that, you know, somebody in California or Florida buy from this area because it's so much cheaper. They have it transported to their place of residence. I'll work with some of those boat dealerships to then shrink wrap those boats, because if you just put the regular standard canvas cover back on the boat and then transport it thousands of miles, that canvas cover, first of all, that canvas cover won't last. I mean, it's basically, it's gonna fray itself, it's gonna eat itself to death on the road. And secondly, it's gonna just gnaw at the gel coat of their brand new boat. So shrink wrapping is always a good option, just because, you know, once we heat this stuff up, it gets real nice and tight. It doesn't flap in the wind. It doesn't deteriorate while going down the road. Happy customer. So now we're doing the back internal structure. Hoping you guys can see this camera angle. I have it down pretty far. I noticed on my last video that you guys were missing quite a bit of what I was doing with my hands. I don't want that sitting on the seat. All right, now hook her down. Make this nice and tight. Got some new razor blades. I want to see how much better these hold up. You'll probably see me change razor blades a lot. I don't know. I'm super picky about it. Like if it's not cutting like butter, razor blades are cheap. I'm getting another one. I'm getting another one. I don't need that much tape. What am I doing? And then we tape these buckles because, well, first of all, we don't want it poking through the shrink wrap. Second of all, they can heat up underneath the shrink wrap whenever we're torching them, and they can burn a hole. We don't want that. All right, so I think the inside's good. I just need to go get my shoes. First, I want to drop this stuff right here. Internal structure seems to be good. Got our tube in here, front. Can the window close? It should be able to. Yes, it can. I'm gonna leave that open for now. Next step, we'll get to doing the side belly band loops, and then we'll get to doing the belly band. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut here. I'll do one side of the belly band loops, show you guys what I did, and then I'll record the other side. So we'll be back in a sec. Okay, so got some belly band loops here. Just tied those off the cleats. Again, these are going to be to hold up the belly band itself whenever we run it. The strap will run through here, right? Got one at the back too. Well, actually a couple. Got one right there. We're going to come through this loop through here. Then we're going to jaunt up to this fella and go around the swim platform itself. These aren't very big, but they're the size they need to be. Pardon me, let me check my phone. All right, so let's do these other belly bands. Again, very simple. Do a loop. The old loop and swoop, I call it. Get it tied onto a cleat. Give yourself about yay. And we're gonna go about to that red line. Cut off the excess just so it doesn't rub on the gel coat too bad. Rinse and repeat on this side. Hoping these hoping these videos aren't too boring, because I'll be honest, today I'm not really feeling like recording. I'm the type who likes to just get on site and bust out the work and get shit done. So this is a little bit against my work ethic or work religion, if you will. Taking extra time to explain what I'm doing. Now, I'm used to doing this if there's another person involved. Like if I bring a helper or something who wants to learn this process, that's not a big deal. This is completely different. I'm talking to myself. When in my mind, I'm like, I should be busting this out. Like, why am I gabbing, right? So hopefully this isn't too just god-awful boring, because I'm not really enthusiastic today. Not gonna lie. Making that trip up and down 4 times kind of killed me a little bit, killed my vibe a little bit. And just the simple fact that I know I'm gonna have to do that on the way out when I'm sore and tired, kind of a bummer. But hey, we'll make the best of it. We're down at the lake. It stopped raining. The sun's starting to come out. The air is fresh. So let's do this. I am gonna go ahead and tape my spool. So right now we're gonna go ahead and run the entire belly band around the boat. When these spools get a little close to the bottom, they can actually pull a little hard. So I'm just gonna tape the feet here so this doesn't fall. That should be all right. You don't need a bunch of tension on it. We're gonna go ahead and run this through here. I always like to do my strap. I like to start it where I'm gonna put the buckle. So in this case, we're gonna put the buckle back here at the end of the swim platform. That way the buckle's just kind of floating in midair, right? It's not rubbing against the sidewall, or it's not rubbing against the side of the boat on the gel coat itself. You always want your buckle to be in a pretty safe area. Sometimes you can't always avoid that, but what you can do is put down a tape pad, some anti-chafe tape, to prevent that buckle from rubbing or screwing up the gel coat. In this case, though, we got the option to just float it in midair, which is always preferred. So we gonna do that. All right, I'm gonna start pulling this, make sure our straps staying put. It is. Pray that you have enough. We do. We do. You don't have to pray. We got enough. I'm confident we got enough. Now it's pulling. Ooh, I just noticed they got there. Ooh. Anchor is pretty low. Not a big deal. We'll just shrink around it. I'd like to have seen that pulled up a little bit. Come on, Chew Poppy. What are we pissed about here? Part of this job too is make sure you always bring a dry set of clothes. I personally haven't fallen in the water yet, but I personally know that will happen. Statistically, it's very probable, right? Look at that, I was worried about nothing. We do have enough strap. This is pretty tight. This strapping gets a little weird whenever it gets down to the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna go check, make sure everything's kind of straight, because the next step is gonna be to huck it down with the buckle. And by huck it down, I mean tighten it. See how this isn't straight? So that has to be straightened out. Around there. Looking goog. Oh. Here's part of our problem. I want this to be up. Boom. Save those for later. All right. We should be able to tighten this down now. Way too much strap here. Grab a buckle. All right, we'll give it the first tighten down. Got this belly band as tight as you can. Get it. Let's see. Oh no, my tape. Don't litter. Yeah. That's pretty tight. I think that'll do. My tape fell in the water. I was going to use that for the buckle. All right, got our belly band done. Now the next part, I'm just gonna tape up that back buckle, tie it up, that way everything's secure. Next part, I'll get the shrink wrap out, get everything staged for that. And then we should be able to start actually pulling material over the top to start tucking it, well, trimming it and then tucking it. And yeah, man, we'll go from there. See you guys in a sec. All right, guys, here we are. I got everything situated. The belly band's ready to go. Belly band loops, all that fun stuff, the internal structure. Now it's time to actually lay up material. This is usually, like I said in my past videos, when the wind likes to pick up out of nowhere. But I think we're gonna be okay today. What we've got here is 26-foot wide material. Okay, I used to do like a 24-foot, but some of these tower boats are a little bit taller, so I like to go as wide as possible. 26 has been a really good length. I'm just gonna set this up here. Set that right there, and then I'm gonna bring it into the boat and pull it up over. Here we go. Pretty tricky. Too bad yet. this over the top light. Got it. We got it. Get some scissors. Always need good scissors on a lanyard, especially when working around the lake. So we got that. This is a 100-foot roll, 26-foot wide. You know, I can typically get 2 to 3 boats, depending on which ones they are, depending on how long they are, that is. So, all right, guys, we're gonna start unfolding this now, and we'll go from there. I guess I'll take you guys along for this. Put my hat backwards here, throw you up here. Basically, this is the edge. I'm just pulling it over very lightly. You don't want to pull it too hard, because I don't want to, again, pull it to one side or the other. Sometimes it's better to take these bumpers off, which I probably will. Here goes an airplane from that airport. Saw one land earlier. So funny, because when I was younger, I actually grew up on an airport down on the lake in Shell Knob, Missouri. And I got to fly all the time, man. I got to fly constantly. And I was in the air at least 2 to 3, 4 times, sometimes a week. I was the only young kid in the neighborhood. It's kind of a retired people's neighborhood. So I did a lot of hustling when I was young, mowing lawns for all the older folks in the area. And a lot of flying in their planes, with them, of course. I got to the point where I could actually, like, I knew the takeoff procedures for like a Cessna 172. I knew how to fly Cubs, flew a lot of Cubs, a lot of just Cessna, single engine stuff, nothing crazy. Although there was like a couple of, like I got to fly in a twin engine, I think a Beechcraft, if I remember right, or maybe it was a Cessna. I can't remember exactly what the model of the plane was, but it was pretty cool. Twin engine, it was fast. Well, fast compared to like my frame of reference, you know, with the Cessna 172, stuff like that. It was pretty normal around there. But I got to go up with them and do like all their normal testing. This bumper's pretty far away, I should be okay. All their like, you know, annual testing of like the stall horn and all that stuff. So, I've been in the air a lot. Looks like he's doing some touch and goes, just flying around. All right, so we got this pretty much unwrapped now. Now it's time to cut her to length. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim one side, put you guys down, and then I'll trim the other side. Yeah, let's get to it. Okay, here we are. I got one side done. Went ahead and trimmed it, and I tucked it up underneath that belly band. The back is a little bit different. I like to go the opposite direction. So now we're gonna get busy on the other side. Take you guys along with me. I'll probably speed some of this up because, again, This is pretty marginally interesting content in my opinion. And it's just gonna be me cutting white plastic at the end of the day. God, that's kind of depressing. So, what you wanna do is find the belly band strap. You can feel it through the shrink wrap itself. That'll give you a good indication of where it is, okay? So, I am gonna cut about a foot or two below that line. This is a little tricky. Again, you actually have to like grab the material. So about right here, I am gonna cut and go straight down. So that is cut off. And just kind of follow this line along. And I'm constantly feeling where that belly band is. So you don't want to go too short. This takes some flexibility, so probably would not recommend. If you got shitty knees. Okay, so I'm about a foot there. So I'm gonna start chasing this downwards a little bit because our belly band gets lower through here. It's a little long. Constantly feeling about a foot. Feel it. All right, there's pleats over here. That's tricky. Yeah. All right, she's cut. Let's get this plastic up and out of the water, roll it up, throw it in the trash. We've drifted a little bit, but that's okay. I kind of want to pull it over there anyway. Here we go, rolling it up, rolling it up, rolling it up, rolling it up, rolling it up. And rolled. I know what you're thinking, that's a lot of waste. Yeah, it is, but also, if I got the exact size of roll for every single boat, it just wouldn't work out. This is highly recyclable, and I do recycle. Okay, so I don't want to hear it. All right, next step, we're gonna go ahead and put in our pleats. Your pleats start at the highest points, okay? We have two highest points, right here, right there. So we're gonna put pleats there. They're just folded in on each other, basically. Start with the pleats. This is a pretty large pleat. And of course the wind is gonna kick up, because that's what it does. That's what it does when you start tucking material. I always like to clamp the pleats because they're a little heavier. You got like 4, 5 layers here. And, not the tightest belly band. Huh. I wonder what that's from. We'll just work our way towards the front. Again, I'm just grabbing this material, sticking my hand up underneath there, pulling it straight. with the belly band. If you guys are still watching this video, hit a like, man. Hit a like on YouTube. It's free. This is the trickiest part, the nose. So I got no place to step. Like if I had something out here I could step on, it'd be easy, but this plank is barely on each edge. As far over as I can. Yeah, there's just no other option unless I can maybe. No. Nope. That's it. That'll do, pig. Okay. Tucked up the front. Let's go do the rear. Then we're ready to break out some heat. Torch this down. Anyways, you guys get the idea. I'm gonna put this back and I'll get the rest of this tucked in and I'll see you guys for torching down around the edges. All right, we got El Torche cabled up. Time to play with some fire. So we're gonna go around the belly band and weld it up. Don't mind that, I already did the back. And then we'll go all the way around the boat and then we'll do tie down. So we'll probably speed some of this up. Again, marginally interesting content, but here we go. Pleats are a little odd. I was like, the torch in here, but don't look in there. Want to be cognizant of where you're putting the torch because you don't want to get the gel coat. Here's the tricky part. Get out on your plank. Don't fall in the water. Whoa. Just about did. Sweet. Go to the other side. That's going to be a hole. I just bumped my torch into that. All right. And I think I'll save you guys doing this side. I'll go ahead and knock this out really quick, and then I'll cut to us doing the belly bands. Talk to you in a sec. Okay, gents. So I went ahead and just skipped ahead here. I didn't think you watching me tie down these belly band straps, these tie downs were that exciting. So I went ahead and knocked those out. I did 3. This one actually goes underneath the boat, attaches to the other side. We got 2. Same for the other side. We're just gonna go ahead and skip to the fun part, and that is firing up the torch. And what we're gonna do on the first step is torch up to about up to here. So we'll go all the way around the back and the sides of the boats, and then I'll put my extension on there and we'll get the rest of it. So let's get to torching this fella down. the wind's gonna pick up right as we start torching. These are a little interesting. I'll cut these down. And let it cool a little bit right there at the seam, because if I start heating it right now, it'll pull away from this at a different rate than this moves. Since you have multiple layers, this shrinks slower than this stuff, and if it's hot and I start shrinking here, it's gonna pull away. So give that a second, let it cool off. I gotta do the same thing over here. What I'll go ahead and do is just heat that up. These seams don't have to be super pretty. We're gonna cover this with tape later. All right, this should be cool enough now. Whew. Do not drop your propane tank in the water. I honestly don't know if that would sink. I would imagine this would sink. I mean, it's got to, right? It's super heavy. All right, on to the other side. This is the part of the process too where you want to be aware of where your fire extinguishers are. There's one right there on the dock. I also have mine right here. Just something to think about. This stuff isn't like highly flammable, obviously, but if you catch it wrong, it can catch on fire. I've never had that happen. I suggest you don't either. Cool. All right, guys, next step, let's get the extension cord or the extension on this torch here, and we'll start shrinking the rest. Hopefully the wind is nice. It seems to have died down a little bit there. It was getting a little windy while I was doing the sides, but we should be okay. All right, the extension's installed. Highly suggest getting these if you're a shrink wrapper, especially if you do boats. Industrial applications, it's definitely not as helpful, but for boats, it's awesome. I don't have to carry my ladder around like I used to and stuff like that. So let's get busy. So this you got to be a little bit careful with, of course. Again, I know I have seats there, so I'm going to avoid that, but I'm going to go ahead and get this back portion. There we go. So the wind is kicking up a little bit. This is where you got to have some patience. Died off. wind's kicking up again. With the wind, you got to be really careful. So whenever this stuff heats up, it has a tendency to blow around with the wind a lot more, and it's also very malleable whenever it heats up. It actually shrinks whenever it cools down. So whenever it's in that state, whenever you're heating it, and even the smallest gust of wind can make it either bubble in or bubble out. You can get a really thin spot, or even worse, a big hole. So again, patience is key. Wind comes and goes, man. It's just part of the environment. It's died off a little bit here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of this top part, and then we'll come down the sides. Man, that boat needs a shrink wrap. That is really bad.